Can give you the updated list. That seems to be the previous papers that you're referring to that went to the original cabinet meeting where this was discussed. With the report that was provided, gives the updated table of the average attendance, weekly attendance figures, so we can make sure that's circulated. It should be part of it, certainly on my papers here, that we can go through that. I'll just direct you to the page number. It's page 91, gives the updated warm welcome space footfall, the average weekly attendance, and that's got all the figures to the current time from when this paper was produced. So what Councillor Mabin's referring to would have been the previous appendices that were on the portal when the original paper went to Cabinet. That's been updated since then, and you'll see the updated figures from page 91 onwards.
Thanks for that clarification. So I'll get Councillor Richardson, Hogg, Lennox, then Stewart.
Thanks, Chair. No, thanks to Peter for his input. I don't really agree with Peter, but I'm going to explain why. I liked Peter's intervention there because I like to be a bit of personal background. I like folk that do that, Peter. I like the story about your mum and Bonnet. In fact, my mum lives in Bonnet as well, and they probably ken each other. She doesn't go to the community centre to play the bingo up at the community centre either, because you can't win any prize money up at the community centre. She'd rather walk down to the town and earn the big money down at the bingo in the centre of the town. Plus there's puggies in there where you can win hundreds of pounds and all. But the reason I'm mentioning that is, and this is the serious point, Peter, because I get the folk, I get the thing about old folk and them having to get out their houses and mix, because I keep saying to my mum she needs to do more of that. But there's two types of pensioner, Peter, and it sounds as if your mum and my mum are in the good position that they're probably well heeled, because I mentioned earlier, I was like you, I divulged a wee bit of personal background. My father worked for East Ayrshire Council all his days, or Kilmarnock Line Council. So my mum is in the lucky position, she's got a Strathclyde pension fund, widow's pension, to add to her state pension. So she's well off, she's got more money than she needs, she's building up. She keeps telling me that when she goes there'll be a big inheritance. I'm not interested, but she keeps telling me she's building up money in the bank. So it sounds as if your mum and my mum are in the nice portion of pensioners that can afford to eat their houses. But what about the pensioners who are living on basic state pension and for whatever reason they don't have another pension to supplement that income? Maybe there were some pensioners who couldn't heat their house, Peter, and maybe then walking down to the community centre to get a wee heat because they were sitting in a flat that they were actually frightened to put the central heating on or put the fire on. Maybe they were the ones that used the warm spaces because they couldn't unfortunately heat their flats or their houses or whatever.
Thanks, Councillor Richardson. And then I think on the flip side of just what you've said there, would more direct support have helped those older individuals? Right, if you said to them, we can give you 50 quid to put in your pocket, or we can go and spend X amount on this centre there, you probably will go, what do you want? That's how I view it. So Councillor Hogg, Lennox and Stewart.
Aye, thanks. Just in relation to the table on page 94, when it says support, these are strap lines that the applications, when they were filled out, people just put in a strap line of what they hope to achieve. It doesn't drill down into the background of what they offer. So many of these places may have said warm welcome place, but when you drill down into what they are giving, it could be that they're giving meals and it could be hot tea, coffee, etc. And I do know a couple of these places that are mentioned on here that say warm welcome place do in fact offer food and heat. So you need to look beyond the strap line of what the support says and drill down, and I'm sure that information is readily available from our Vibrant Communities colleagues of what all these places are actually giving out. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Hogg. It's just unfortunate that information hasn't provided at today's governance and scrutiny meeting. So we'll move on to Councillor Lennox.
Thanks, Chair. I actually put my hand back down, but it was just to confirm that Suzanne's already confirmed that the Auchinleck Indoor Bowling Club warm space was open, because I visited it myself along with Councillor Leach a couple of weeks ago. So thanks for pointing that out, Suzanne.
Thanks, Councillor Lennox. Councillor Stewart.
Just a wee quickie, it's number 16, FEFA, and number, wait to find it again, 39, RES. What actually are they?
So these are specific organisations based in the Kilmarnock area, and 39 is Recovery Enterprise Scotland, and FIFA is, off the top of my head, is one of our local groups that run. It's the FIFA Food Ladder. It's food for all.
Thanks, Suzanne.
Good, thanks very much. Is there any other comments or questions? No. So when we look at what we're remit from Cabinet, what we're requested to do from Cabinet, I just can get to the recommendations. Best that the Governance and Scrutiny Committee on this, as part of their scrutiny responsibility, have a particular focus on the funding allocated and the numbers attending the warm welcome places within communities, as outlined within the East Ayrshire Performance Report and the additional information provided on the members portal. So we are looking at the funding that's been allocated, and we are looking at the numbers attending the warm welcome places. And I don't know. There are some areas that's clearly working, and there's some areas it's not. And for me, the areas that it's not working, then those resources have to be diverted to the areas where it is working. But so can I just clarify though, the North West Area Centre, I can see, have we already put in the Wi-Fi? There was no Wi-Fi. Can you just give us a wee bit of detail about the Wi-Fi? And I know I've asked you this before, but I think it would be helpful for the committee to hear it, if that's okay.
So the North West Area Centre and the spaces available to the community don't currently have Wi-Fi in them. So the cost associated with that is the £10,000 for installation costs. There's then a 3-year support cost for the North West Area Centre. So the total cost for Wi-Fi in the North West Area Centre is about £11,500, and that's part of this programme. That will allow us then to introduce Wi-Fi into the whole centre. So the Danny Coffee Suite, the where we've got the warm space, whatever that turns out to be, into the halls, into the gyms, and into that cafe space. So that will then be a fully connected centre with that investment. That's the case for all of them. As you've seen that table in paragraph 9 in the report, we have got installation costs are high where there's no Wi-Fi currently at all. And then the venues where it's a smaller cost, for example, Burns House Museum, Darvel Town Hall, the Dick Institute, that's where we currently have Wi-Fi in these venues, but they are dedicated to certain areas within the venue. For example, in Darvel Town Hall, we only have Wi-Fi in the library. This would allow us then to put Wi-Fi across the whole venue, which means that as well as the warm space being connected for the community, the whole venue can be. And that's what our priority is for our digital connectivity for all of our venues, not just these ones. It's so that you can go into any single one of our venues, you can get online, you can go and pay your bills, you can stream, you can do whatever you need to do digitally wherever you are. And that's our aspiration. So is that enough of an update, or any specifics?
So in your libraries, they have the Wi-Fi there, but it's just not extended out to like others. So when I think about Crosshouse Library, that's a shared building between us and the NHS. So how would you extend, or why would you want to extend that Wi-Fi out?
So there are no costs for Crosshouse Library because we don't have the opportunity to extend it. And because it's a shared venue with the NHS, our only remit or responsibility for Crosshouse Area Centre is within the library space. So we don't have an allocation next to Crosshouse Library for that very reason. It's already well served. We're within our venue.
So that's an update from the report that was submitted to Cabinet.
Yeah.
Okay. So just when I think about libraries and best value for the money spent and opening hours and availability of the venues, what's the plans, and is it possible to extend the hours there so that there's more potential of the community being able to access these facilities?
Yeah, I think libraries is one of my hot subjects in the last year. Library numbers, as we all are aware, are declining. So it's heartening to see where there are warm spaces that are actually going up. Now that's for no other reason than people's change in behaviour in terms of their reading, because our ebook numbers have gone through the roof. So our aspiration is, because these are great spaces, whether they're libraries or otherwise, these then have to do more than just borrowing a book. And you can see that very clearly in the Dick Institute, that the spaces are buzzing and it's encouraging people to connect online. It's encouraging people to be together for lots of different reasons. And that's what we need to see across all of our venues. We need to keep on investing in our ebooks, because that's the way the trend is. And as Jo said earlier on in Research Performs, which I appreciate, we're looking at our models and we're responding to what we've learned through COVID, coming out of COVID through recovery, and into the period we're in now. We're not losing these venues because they're important community assets, but we need then people to come into them. And so we need to find different ways for people to come into them. And I feel as if I'm losing the trail of your question in that, because I've got on my hobby horse about libraries opening hours. So over the next couple of months, we have just completed an organisational review. We have now come through that. Our staff and structures are now stable. And what we'll be doing over the next coming months is doing some community consultation on our opening hours. When we set our opening hours for our libraries and our community centres, they were done across the board. So all of our libraries generally have the same opening hours. All of our community centres generally have the same opening hours. That's not responsive to community needs. So what the consultation will do over the coming months is it will do it a community by community basis. What one community needs for its community facility is different from what another one does. So we'll be looking at our opening hours, we'll be looking at what we do within these venues, and we'll be changing our model and our opening hours to reflect what the community needs. And that's how we're going to be changing our opening hours. And that's why this one-off investment for us is so important. As Councillor Richardson said, it's about people who were scared to be together during COVID now having the confidence to come together, and for us to provide a welcome, comfortable space with lots of activity for them to be together as a community and start building that community cohesion again. And that's the priority for us going forward.
I mean, I know that's certainly one of your themes. That was one of the themes for the cost of living monies. I'm delighted to hear about, the review of the opening times of your venues, particularly libraries. Will that consultation, be concluded, and any changes made before the summer? So I'm just thinking that that would be another space that kids could go to during their summer holidays,
Absolutely. I think it would be optimistic, and my team might hang me for saying it would be concluded by the summer, because it also involves, as well as community consultation, it clearly involves consultation with our staff, because it could be changing to their working practices. So that, as we all know, is not a quick turnaround exercise. What I will say is, though, our venues are open and accessible during the school holidays for activities. Vibrant Communities programme into them and have a summer or a holiday programme in them. We have our own holiday programme in them, and we'll continue to do that.
That's great. And any possibility that we could have maybe vibrant communities in these libraries when your own staff's not there to deliver the activities, then that way that facility is open and it's given extended hours and opportunities for the communities. I think that would be a great route, if that would be possible.
We are looking at lots of different alternative models. We are looking at working with the community and them sharing some of the responsibilities so we can extend opening hours. So I'm hoping that this this different approach to modelling will come out through the consultation. We're doing that already with Councillor Stewart and other community groups in the Doon Valley to see how the community can support us so that we can keep the facilities open.
Yeah, thanks, Annika. Councillor Richardson.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Alan. No, but it was just to say to Annika about the Dick Institute, the changing in the place is immense. I mean, I remember obviously school at Kilmarnock Academy, going over there to do my studying, etc. And if you made a wee bit of noise, you'd have three folk going shh, shh. That was that type of place, It was actually It would in the back in the days, 1980s, late 1980s, it would have put you halfkin in. But this is what I would like to say to Annika. Brilliant, the transformation in the Dick Institute. What a welcoming place that is now. I mean, I know why a lot of the reference books have been taken away, because the kids of today don't need a book to go and study and look up stuff. They're doing that online. So I understand why the books have been thinned out, but there's still, you know, plenty there for people who like a Western or something like that, or some kind of novel and what have you. So there's plenty of books for folks that like books. But great that there's a wee cafe up the corner in the actual main library area. Superb, that's brilliant. But the main thing that I really liked last time I was in, oh, excuse my ignorance here, Annika, who's the illustrator that illustrated the Roald Dahl books? Quentin Blake. Quentin Blake. So went round the Quentin Blake exhibition, and actually, for my own personal enjoyment, obviously, but then I thought, right, I'll do the counsellor bit, and I'll go to the visitors book, and I'll flick through all the visitors book, and I'll read all the comments. What brilliant comments for the folk that have actually went round the Quentin Blake exhibition. It's obvious that you're using the term libraries. I actually don't think they are libraries anymore. Museums is a bit of an old-fashioned term as well, but they're basically, the Dick Institute's a great example of how a place can actually just be transformed. So well done in that.
The Dick Institute's my favourite building in the whole of East Ayrshire. I know many people's is the castle, but mine's is the Dick Institute. Councillor Cannon.
Thanks, Chair. I think it's just a general comment, and I think we need to be mindful of what the purpose of this committee is, because this is not the only place that we scrutinise officers. And I think we know in this council more than any other council, I don't have experience, but in my experience as a new member, doors are open. We can talk about anything we want. We can scrutinise, and if we don't not happy with it, we can raise it within our groups and we can bring it in. And there's different ways of escalating. I don't think personally, and I think, I mean, this morning's been, I mean, there's been lots and lots of good questions. I think it's very important. I think I'm often disappointed sitting in here listening to some questions and think, why didn't I ask that? You know, and there's lots of really good questions this morning. That's really, really important. I don't want to, the governance committee is extremely important, but there are officers here, there's a time involved, we need time to service the wrong word, to look after our constituents. So there is a cost involved when we are in here talking about individual items. You know, as I said, this is not the only place we scrutinise. We can walk into any officer's door and ask the question. I think we just need to, and I'm not aiming this at any particular person. I'm sure I'm guilty of asking questions that maybe are too granular level. I just think we need to be mindful of that because we might be taking away for other scrutiny and conversations we can have with officers. So I just think we need to be mindful that we don't get too granular, and we need to question the officers. But when we get the answers and we understand that the process is robust, for me that's enough. I know that Annika and her team will be looking at the things that we're talking about and trying to adapt, and we're only fairly early into this process. And also that it's welcome spaces that will be here for a while. It's not just sorry, so that was just, I think we just need to be mindful of that the purpose of the committee is not to get down to that granular level necessarily. I'm not saying if there's issues with that can be escalated through this committee after having been discussed with officers, but we need to make sure that everyone's time is used usefully in the scrutiny, because just to sum up again, this is not the only place that we scrutinise officers. We do it all the time. Thanks.
Councillor Clark.
Thanks, Chair. Page 94, the Goulston cabin. Now, I'm wondering if it's the same cabin, because the wife of one of the organisers told me it's men only. So I said to him, you can't do that, you know, it's illegal. I know, but I'm just wondering, welcome space for everyone, or?
Yeah, I can confirm through you, Chair, that all our cabin facilities now are opened up to much wider than just men. They're for everybody in the community to access, particularly if it's a welcome space, then absolutely it's for anybody in the community. There may be some groups that are specific that run in some of the facilities that are targeted just at men. We've got men's sheds and other groups that are specifically set up for that purpose, but generally where we're funding warm welcome spaces, they are there for anybody in the community to access.
Thanks for that.
Okay, thanks very much. Okay, so this item was, oh, sorry, Councillor May.
Can I just ask how many of the warm spaces that we've got active are also food ladders at the same time? And I think Short Leys is one that I can know of for certain.
So we have our food ladders are separate from our warm welcome spaces. Particular, it may be that there's a food ladder that also operates in that facilities as well. I can get that level of detail for you following here, Councillor Mabin. But what I can say is probably it was pointed out by somebody earlier. In fact, I think it was on screen. One of our elected members had stated where funding was given to a warm welcome space. Some of that funding may be to offer food as part of that. So all our, if not all, the warm welcome spaces offer food in terms of free soup or tea, coffee, etc. But the food ladders are a standalone separate space that may just happen to be operating out of the same building as the warm welcome space. I hope that gives some clarity.
Thank you.
Larders and food banks will be experiencing significant pressure as we go on, because I know that Cross House is under pressure as well. So does anybody else have any questions or comments? No, it's important that everybody gets to say what they want to say or ask any questions they want to ask. No. So this item was a specific request from Cabinet. And Julie, I'm just looking at the recommendations and on what's been discussed in relation to the item. In terms of, it's been confirmed that there'll be a review of the spaces to see what's working and what's not working. Is that right, Annika? You were saying that, and the spaces will be looked at to see how they can be adapted to meet needs as the weather changes or as seasons change. Hopefully identify what other requirements will be needed, you know, in terms of going forward when schools are in holiday. Noting already the free activities and the rollout of the free cinema from East Ayrshire Leisure. And that we would welcome the results of that review at the earliest possible time once Cabinet has discussed it at their meetings. And just keep monitoring things as we go on, and you know, and collating that information, that data that we're needing to understand what other supports our people are needing throughout East Ayrshire, and where we best direct any resources that we have to be able to deal with that support. Would that be a fair summarisation? Would that be a fair summarisation? Yep.
Chair, there's also an opportunity, obviously East Ayrshire Performs do have a section on cost of living, and East Ayrshire Performs goes to both Cabinet and here as well. So maybe if some of that information could be routinely put into East Ayrshire Performs in order for both Cabinet and GNS to scrutinise the information, because I think, as Annika said, they will adapt the model and roll it out to future-proof it, and as I say, it's long-term, it's no short-term this. So we can maybe have a word with George to see if there's anything that East Ayrshire Performs could include rather than kind of standalone items, if you like.
You're just happy with that, okay? So in terms of the recommendations then,
Yep. So what we can do is, if members are agreed, and we'll get formal words and just run it past you.
recommendation to the Governance and Scrutiny Committee. So just in terms of, I know there's a report that will go back to Cabinet on this from the Deputy Chief Executive. So in terms of what we've discussed today, how that will be reported back to Cabinet, can you just advise?
Yep, so as you rightly say, Chair, it's a report by Katie back to Cabinet just to say that obviously Governance and Scrutiny have really scrutinised this. They've given a long term, and they've also gave a lot of really good questions. And then what will be in that report will be what you've just outlined in terms of what the committee would like to see going forward, some of the information and being kept up to date in terms of how these spaces have been adapted as we go.
I think that's fair, and that would represent what we've discussed today. If committee are minded to agree that. Is there anybody otherwise minded? No? Okay, that's fine then. So thank you everybody for your attendance and for your input today. Have a nice weekend. Okay.
Chair.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.